All right, looks
All
good.
right. We're going to start here from the top again, just so that it's all contained in the recording. As permitted by the governor's disaster declaration of February 4th, the determination has been made that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent for this committee. To ensure a transparent and open meeting as possible, we posted the meeting materials 1 week in advance. We'll provide a recording of the meeting linked on our website, and we'll take all votes by roll call. With that, Elliot, could you call the roll again, please?
All right, second time's a charm. Darwin Burkhart, Doug Ferguson,
Here.
Mayor Grasso,
Here.
Mark Pitstick,
Here.
Chris Schmidt,
Here.
Tom Rickert,
Here.
and Jeff Stryver. Thank you.
Thanks, Elliot. So as I stated before, the project change memo did not come through fully through in what we posted. What was missing were the first 2 pages, which contained the summary information, but the actual individual changes were all contained in the materials posted. I have added a link to the full memo in the chat function for everybody so that they can take a look at that when we get to that item. All right. Any other announcements for the committee? All right. Hearing none. Approval of the minutes from October 28th of last year. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved, Chris Schmidt.
Seconded,
Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any changes or comments on the minutes as proposed? All right, hearing none. Elliot, will you call the roll for the minutes?
Darwin Burkhart, Doug Ferguson,
Aye.
Mayor Grasso,
Aye.
Mark Pitstick,
Aye.
Chris Schmidt,
Aye.
Tom Rickert,
Aye.
and Jeff Stryver.
All right, the minutes are approved. Moving on to program monitoring. So included in the meeting materials were the programming status sheets for both CMAQ and TAP, active and deferred, as well as the programming summary sheet with the obligation information. I will note that so far this federal fiscal year, we have just over 14 million in obligations, which is a good sign. Hopefully it'll pick up here in the spring letting season. With that, are there any questions on the materials? All right, hearing none, let's move on to project changes. Elliot, will you take care of these?
Will do. Thanks, Doug. So project sponsors requested consideration of changes to 4 projects and segments. 2 requests were eligible for administrative approval, which I'll go over later, and 2 are presented to the committee for formal approval. First is Schomburg's Gulf Road and Meacham Road multi-use path project. The project is currently approved for $80,000 CMAQ for right-of-way in 2022 and $1,120,000 CMAQ for construction and construction engineering in 23. The sponsors requested a cost increase of $196,000 CMAQ for right-of-way in 2022. This is due to the original right-of-way costs that were estimated from the Phase 1 engineering phase. More precise estimates have been developed following Phase 2 engineering. Staff recommends the approval of the requested cost increase of $196,000 CMAQ for right-of-way in 2022 for Schomburg's Gulf Road and Meacham Road multi-use path project. The second project is Elmhurst, Illinois Route 56 Butterfield Road at York Street project. The project is currently approved for $28,252,000 CMAQ for Phase 1 engineering in 22. Additionally, $128,000 CMAQ for Phase 2 engineering, $350,000 CMAQ for right-of-way, and $997,748,000 or CMAQ for construction and construction engineering are currently deferred. The sponsor is requesting a reinstatement and a cost increase for a total of $176,056 CMAQ for Phase 2 engineering in 2022. This project was sort of a catch-22 status. IDOT noted that the Phase 1 PDR could not be approved without a future phase active in the TIP. And conversely, our active program management policies state that Phase 2 engineering can only be reinstated when Phase 1 design approval was received. In light of this, the sponsor provided staff and the committee with transmittal emails to IDOT for both the draft PDR and Phase 2 engineering agreement as a substitute for design approval for phase accomplishment. Noting this, staff recommends the approval of the requested reinstatement and cost increase for a total of $176,000 or $176,056 CMAQ for Phase 2 engineering in 2022 for Elmhurst's Illinois Route 56 Butterfield Road at York Street project. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Tom Ricker motions to approve both projects.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Second. I heard someone second. Thank you, Mayor. All right, so we have a motion for approval. Are there any questions or comments on the two proposed changes? All right, hearing none. Elliot, will you call the roll?
Yes. Darwin Burkhart, Doug Ferguson,
Aye.
Mayor Grasso,
Aye.
Mark Pitstick,
Aye.
Chris Schmidt,
Aye.
Tom Rickert,
Aye.
and Jeff Stryver. Thank you.
All right, the approvals. Elliot, you want to handle item 5.2, the administrative changes?
Yes. So along with the two formal requests presented to the committee, it was just approved, two requests were eligible for administrative approval by CMAP staff. These are the Rolling Meadows Quentin Road Bike Path project. It's approved for $36,000 CMAQ for Phase 2 engineering in 22, $2,400 CMAQ for right-of-way in 2022, and $762,400 CMAQ for construction engineering in 2023. Sponsor requested to advance the construction phase, so $762,400 CMAQ from 2023 to 2022. This was initially moved to 23 during carryover to meet fiscal constraint with the intention to move it back into the active year at a later date. Staff approved this requested schedule change for Rolling Meadows Quentin Road Bike Path. And the second was Aurora Transportation Center Access Improvements Project. It's currently approved for $709,394 CMAQ for construction engineering in 2022, which is in advanced construction. In addition, the sponsor requested a cost increase of $277,036 CMAQ for construction engineering in 22 to compensate for bids higher than project estimates, which were attributable to materials cost increases from recent supply chain issues. I'd like to note that the total increase is less than the requested CMAQ amount to reduce this local contribution to raise the federal contribution to 80%. After reviewing this, staff did approve the requested cost increase of $277,036 CMAQ for construction engineering in 22 for Aurora Transportation Center Access Improvements Project.
All right, thanks. Are there any questions on the administrative changes? Yes, Mark.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to have you talk a little bit more about the Aurora project. I'm familiar with the project and I support it. I'm just trying to understand why this one's an administrative modification. I remember we changed the thresholds for changes. Did it fall under the threshold? Is that why? I mean, the cost increase is like a third or more than a third of the project, but less than half. Is that what's happening?
So for the current programmed amount for the phase, this request did fall below those thresholds. It fell below 100% increase and the $500,000 threshold.
Okay, So it's a 100% increase or a $500,000 increase, is that?
If the phase is below $1 million,
The
yes.
phase is below, okay. So in contrast, the, I don't know, Elmhurst project earlier was a smaller amount, but that was because it was a high percentage of the phase 2 engineering, the phase. Is that why that was? Okay, all right. All right, just trying to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe that one more than doubled for that phase on the.
Yeah, the total project wasn't that much, but the phase was a lot, yeah. Okay.
And I think when we were looking at the administrative changes, this is the type of project that we were envisioning. Where they've gone out to letting. I mean, things came in higher, and they proceeded with the chance that maybe we wouldn't approve it, but due to the amount of the cost, it could be handled under that threshold, and the project keeps moving forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on the administrative changes? All right, well, hearing none, we're going to move on to 6.0, the federal fiscal year 2024 to 2028 program development, next call. So between now and the November meeting, staff is going to be bringing different potential changes or discussion items on the next call and how we're going to process and handle these. So today is going to be kind of a little bit brief. I didn't provide any advanced memo, but I hope the materials that are being presented are clear and concise and can generate some sort of discussion. Last fall, it was recommended that a potential a minimum project score be utilized in selecting projects. It was noted that we were selecting projects that had a very low cost effectiveness score. And I would like to talk about this a little bit. I don't think we want to put a limit on, and the reason being that the cost effectiveness score for emissions reductions already has the scoring already has a built-in ceiling to it, a cap, if you will. So if a project drops is too high in the dollars per kilogram of VOC eliminated, it would receive a score of 0. And I think it's best reflected in this. These are just like some average numbers. It's just to show how it breaks down. But once you hit $53,000 per kilogram of VOC eliminated, you get a score of 0. So we already had a cap in place, and I would hesitate putting a minimum score amount because of this. I mean, we could look at scoring everything that has an emissions benefit and giving it, but I don't think that's warranted. You may be asking, well, how did we determine like that? It's roughly about 52,000 and change is the break point where a project stops receiving a score. And what we had done when we instituted this scoring, what was it, 8 years ago, we took 10 years worth of CMAQ evaluations and kind of looked at the spread of dollars per kilogram of VOC eliminated amongst all the different types of projects, and found that roughly nothing was ever selected in below 45, but we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room depending on how changes go. So with that, I would ask the committee to agree that there's no need to put a threshold on or a cap on the scoring or project selection based upon minimum score. But with that, I would like to open the floor to see if anybody else has any comments. And I've lost my camera, so I can't see anybody right now. I'm not sure why. Hold on. There we go. All right. Got the camera back. Anybody have any thoughts on this? Do we need to spend more time looking at this? would you like staff to generate some sort of recommendation for minimum score threshold? All right, well, not hearing anything. I'm going to assume silence is consent. I mean, it is probably time that we look back at the past programs and try to see if the scores. I mean, we've never had a case where we had to fall in. Like, I mean, if a project has emissions benefit, it's eligible. But when it comes to the scoring, we've kind of instituted a cap of if you drop below roughly 53,000 per dollars per kilogram of VOC eliminated, you get a score of 0, thereby essentially potentially eliminating the project from being selected. But at this point in time, we've never gotten to that point. If I go back a slide, you'll notice that the one I circled, the 16,000 per kilogram, that was the lowest one that was selected. So we didn't come close to the 0 amount. So at this point in time, I don't feel that there's a need, but it can't hurt to just look over the last few cycles and get some fresh numbers in there. Yeah.
Doug, just a couple questions, comments for clarification, trying to understand this. So,
yeah,
again, the air quality score is just a part of the score, right? There's still other parts of the score. So, is it possible that something could get a 0 in the air quality effectiveness, then get other points, and then, you know, or if we get something that's a 0, does it get knocked out, or does it just get a 0?
No, it just gets a 0. So as long as it has emissions benefit, like,
yeah.
So the ones that don't have an emissions benefit, we mark like no estimated emissions benefit.
Okay.
Yes, so you're correct. There's 40 points that are divided between the transportation impact criteria and the inclusive growth score. There is a possibility that a project gets 0 for the cost effectiveness and still gets points. But the most it could get would be 40 points. There's only been a few projects that have gotten all 40 points in the past few cycles.
Was the source of the comment specifically related to the air quality cost effectiveness, or was it total score? Do you remember?
I believe it was it was based upon the cost effectiveness score.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if I recall right too, that you know, what a lot of the bicycle projects end up being significantly higher, but we've utilized the TAP program to move forward with good bicycle projects.
Yeah, I mean, I know there was some concerns just that we were selecting projects that weren't of the best quality. I would say because the kind of the scoring cap that we instituted, that even a low cost effectiveness score doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad project. There might be other issues. So if we wanted to put an informal cap there, I would, but a hard and fast one, a threshold that they have to cross, I'm not sure I want to do that, because that could limit this committee's ability to potentially select a project that maybe we just have a hard time evaluating the emissions for, or something of that nature. It eliminates, or it puts a capacity constraint on our ability to maybe pick up a project that the region really wants to do, but doesn't quite like score really well.
Yeah, I would agree. Yep.
All right. So
Doug?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Chris from Can you go back to that last slide?
Which one? This
the
one?
one with the you just had it up on the screen. Yeah, there we go. So you indicated this red circle, that's a project that was selected, or that was the lowest scored project from the last round?
For that was the lowest project selected
Okay.
based on the cost effectiveness score. That project in particular had a really good transportation impact criteria score, which is, I think, what like kind of moved it further to the top.
Okay, sure. I couldn't remember if you said that was the lowest scored or if that was the lowest scored project that was selected. And I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, it was the lowest cost effectiveness score that was selected.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right. So I didn't have any other items. Staff are still looking at some different items for future discussion for the next call. These are kind of the areas that we're looking at. We received a comment about the total project cost being used as the cost effectiveness evaluation. We're going to take a look at it and see what we find. This related to like major capital projects where they have exceedingly high costs comparatively. So we'll take a look at it. We'll bring something back for your consideration. And then we're also just looking at our inclusive growth score and whether we can incorporate some other equity considerations as part of that. And if there's anything else, I know we had an item at the last meeting in October, but I'll reiterate, if there's anything else that you'd like staff to take a look at, whether it be just in the general materials, eligible project costs, I will say this, that there's some potential that there could be some changes based upon the IIJA bill, but until we get some further clarification or guidance from our federal partners, I don't foresee any changes at this time. Anything else that you would like us to take a look at? Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, this is kind of a broader question about funding, and we're talking about the program development for the future program, but previously you showed the programming summary and obligation goals, and we've been, I think, working with $105 million per year as sort of the mark for a long time, and now it looks like 115 million, and moving forward, is that likely to be the amount, or could that amount go up substantially, or does that change because of the recent act?
It did, yeah, it did change, but I'm hesitant to update. These are still the old numbers that we were using before for because we only get the annual apportionment on a annual basis. We don't get advanced numbers, but I think we will make some changes in the future. We did get a slight bump for CMAQ. TAP probably got the larger of the bump. I believe that was 23% increase. But some of that had to do with the percentage that the state needs to share with the metropolitan regions. So we will be coming back with updated numbers. It's just too early to tell. We did our federal apportionment for federal fiscal year 22 did come out. Recent updated numbers were lower than we originally anticipated. But we haven't been able to figure out why. But we continue to monitor that, make sure that we're staying abreast.
But there's not a huge across the board increase for CMAQ in the program nationally or anything like that.
No, it only got about a 10% bump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't foresee. We have enough projects programmed that I don't think there's a need to go out and get additional projects. I know there's several projects that would like to move forward, and I think that'll more than eat up the amount of money the extra that we have. All right. Well, hearing nothing else, moving on to other business. Any other business that any of the committee members wish to bring forward?
Can we talk, this is kind of related to that programming. In the memo that you attached, Doug, today in the remarks with the project change memo, there's a summary there, and it talks about, you know, the unprogrammed balance. The 2022 unprogrammed balance is approximately 20 million. Is that correct? Does that mean whereas the next couple of years
so
are
many
pretty much
sheets of paper. I just want to make sure I'm following along. So did you say 2022?
Yeah, 2022.
So I'm showing that we actually have a negative programming balance, and the reason being is because of advanced construction.
Yeah.
Where we have projects, we have about a little over 70 million in advanced construction, and if they all converted today, we may be in trouble, but we haven't found that to be the case. It typically takes, Elliot, I know we ran the numbers. Do you remember? It was like 6 months at a minimum, but most projects exceeded a year of in advanced construction status before they were converted.
Something like that.
So we've kind of done an over programming so that we keep projects moving forward, so that we're always able to fill that like keep projects going into advanced construction, because our federal, but until they're converted, that doesn't come off our federal total.
Okay.
Also,
Right,
I'd like to, I'd like to point out that the 20 million figure, I think you're looking at the TAP program.
Right. I just realized that, and maybe that's something worth talking about. So then, I mean, that seems unusual. I mean, we're upside down on the CMAQ program, right? We're over programmed. The TAP, we're under programmed. What does that mean? If we have 20 million available in the TAP program, don't have enough projects, or
Elliot, do you know, like, I didn't look closely at that number, so.
I'd have to go and revisit it. I can get back to you on that, Mark, though.
okay. I'm just wondering if we're what, halfway through the federal fiscal year, not quite, but if we have an unprogrammed balance of $20 million in the TAP program, seems like a lot.
Oh, it is. I mean, we only have, I don't know what with the new numbers, but like it was only roughly about 9.5 million per year. So you are correct. That might just be an error, but we'll double check that and get back.
Okay. I just wondered if we need to do something about it. I don't know.
Oh, no. Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Any other business?
Hi, this is Chris Schmidt from IDOT. I didn't know, when did we get rid of the John Donovan corner at the end of this CMAQ meetings? I thought there was always a check-in with John Donovan to see what little nuggets of federal information he could provide us. Maybe I missed that getting taken out. There he is, big of the devil. You say his name, he shows up.
If you want nuggets, you're looking at the wrong place today, but nuggets. I appreciate that, Chris. I actually don't think I have anything for the committee today, but I better be prepared for next time, I guess.
Well, I got one that was kind of a surprise to me. This isn't necessarily a CMAQ update, but it's a program that's going to be very interestingly aligned with CMAQ. So one of the federal programs you might know is an electrification formula fund that's coming our way, and then there's going to be some competitive projects potentially. I'm putting in the chat pod now. FHWA provided some guidance this morning, very early this morning. It's very new. I think the ink's still drying on that, but this is some guidance that came out of an RFI that they put out IDOT and then a coalition of Midwest states called Rev Midwest put together a memo, and we provided some comments. And anyway, this is sort of the brick laying for how that program is going to work. And I probably should talk to John a little bit more about these programs, but there's some other ones that will be coming to the Chicagoland area. They're in IIJA. One's called Protect. You know, so there is going to be some funding in there potentially for more resilience additions to projects. And then another program that we might find ourselves voting on these types of projects coming up called Carbon Reduction Program. They're all still very new. We've just started conversations with CMAP on those, but I just wanted to put those different names in front of you all to let you know they're coming down the pike. Yeah, just wanted to add that information, and thank you for letting me ramble, Doug.
Not a problem. I will say, I mean, we've been looking at the carbon program as kind of a natural fit with CMAQ. Most of the projects are eligible under both programs are the same. Not to mention, we do currently have the ability to estimate greenhouse gas emissions for like all the CMAQ projects, and would be able to do the same with the carbon program. So we're interested to continue discussions on that. Don't have anything new. Like there is the potential that we could be talking about a call for projects for the carbon, but it's too early to tell at this point in time. So I don't want to get anybody's hopes up and then dash them, but we are looking at that.
That's great. Yeah, and I didn't mean to get people's hopes up either. I've been asked to research these programs, and I know the federal government's doing their very best to put out guidance and be great partners like they have been. But the more I do research on that, more that I realize we're going to be partnering with our friends at CMAP, and want to make sure that all the other folks on this committee realize that there is a mountain of competitive money that's going to come. There was somebody who estimated it at like 80% of IIJA. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like a fairly healthy amount that local municipalities are going to have access to outside of state. You know, now that means you're going to have to be in line, I believe, to be a direct recipient from the federal government. I'm not sure who has the bandwidth for that, but of course, IDOT would love to be your partner. Yeah, right. So just something to think about. And those programs are very complex, a lot of nuance, but the more you can get into it, the more comfortable you might feel with when those calls for projects come out. So thank you.
I would add also that the Transportation Committee will probably be having more discussions about like the region as a whole, and especially on the competitive side, like how do we best align ourselves together so that we're putting together strong applications as a region. So that's another resource. Check out those meetings. There might be some potential nuggets there as well. All right, any other business? All right, hearing none, move on to the public comments section. We did not receive any public comment in advance. Is there anybody else in the audience, attendees, that wishes to address the committee? If you do, please unmute yourself and state your name and who you're representing. I see that Scott Hennings has a comment. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Doug, and thanks to the committee for this opportunity to address you today. I know, Doug, we've had conversations in the past about transit availability being part of the scoring criteria in the CMAQ program. You know, both with the transit availability index as well as transit improvements that are made as part of roadway projects. I just wanted to bring to the committee's attention that with PACE's new strategic plan, a lot of movement is underway to sort of eliminate the few remaining fixed routes that McHenry County has available. And if that does come to pass in the near future, that could have pretty large ramifications as far as us not being able to compete for projects that aren't going to be near transit, because transit won't exist in McHenry County other than the metro stations. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that, you know, if this program is aimed to be competitive throughout the entire region, we need to make sure that transit is available throughout the entire region, or modify that scoring criteria such that it doesn't play as large of a role going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I would add that the transit availability score is used for just with the TAP program, but we'll take a look at that, and that's a potential thing that we can maybe do something different with. But we'll definitely take a look.
Doug, this is Dave. Can I make a comment? Yeah. In terms of what PACE has released, our driving innovation, which is really looking at, it's an update from our Vision 2020, which looks at service based on demand and conditions and providing the appropriate level of service to the appropriate markets. McHenry County will still have transit service. We already have the McRide as an example of looking at how we tailor the service to meet the demands and the markets in that particular area. It is opposed to calling something a route versus a service. So as we move forward through this, as Doug, you mentioned, as to, how do we look at what is defined as transit? Because a traditional fixed route versus, say, a on-demand dial-a-ride service is still transit to the person, to providing service to that area, to those passengers. So, there's a lot of work that needs to be done moving forward, and driving innovation is a multi-year approach as to how we look and design new services to meet those appropriate markets and tailor them to the services that everyone needs and what we can offer. But we will still have transit. It's just how we define transit. And I think that's something, that we should think about as we move forward, through this program and maybe even the other programs. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Dave. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the committee? Okay, not hearing anything. Moving on to the next meeting. The next meeting will be Thursday, April 14th. There is the potential possibility that we'll be having an in-person meeting based upon the governor's actions or comments yesterday. So stay tuned for that. I know some of you have been dying to see our new offices, and maybe that's a possibility in April. And with that, if there's no other business, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second. Mark Pitstick.
Thanks, Mark. Only need to do a voice vote here, so Elliot's off the hook. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.